We're about halfway through season 24 of Family Guy, so we thought we'd look at all the episodes that have been released so far, giving our thoughts and opinions on whether we're so back or if it's so over. And stay tuned in the coming months to hear our reviews for the remaining episodes once they're all out. Kicking things off with Family Guy's 450th episode, The Edible Arrangement, where Stewie and Lois are finally able to have a heart-to-heart through arguably questionable means.
Welcome to Quahog's first recreational dispensary. Now, as you all know, I was against this.
So with the first dispensary opening up in Quahog, Brian takes the opportunity to finally, well, let's be honest. He didn't need this place to get zooted. I guess now he doesn't have to worry about the smell or trying to hide it. It's not like those eyes would let him anyway.
So then I was like, what if I've also been the mailman the whole time?
What if, man? What if? So while Brian's having a heck of a time, Stewie is not, as Lois is depriving him of his own sweet transcendental treat.
Oreos, here we go, baby. I want Oreos!
Being a child really is harder than people realize. If I want an Oreo, I can just get up and get one. It's messed up you gotta go through an 18-year-long battle pass just to earn the right to decide what you're allowed to eat. But Stewie is a competent baby, and he's willing to manifest his destiny with a little espionage. Only it's not Oreos his eyes land on.
Oh, baby, bonus candy! Not really feeling the sugar rush.
Yeah, you won't be feeling a rush, but after a few of those, you'll be feeling every conceivable feeling that was ever felt in the history of the universe. Or, you'll just get the munchies. It's a huge range of options.
Music will help me relax. Okay, this is good. This is helping.
Unfortunately for Stewie, the wheels on the bus goes off the rails as the gummies take him on a pretty neat psychological journey where he kills a swarm of Ruperts with a baseball bat. Yeah, those gummies might have been laced with something. This is like what your friend who's never done this stuff pretends to see. But pretty soon, Stewie manages to bypass the crippling anxiety and transitions into being a cool and kicked-back kid.
I think I may take a gap year. Hit the road. There's something I've been searching for a while that I need to find.
Guess it could be worse. High people either talk about their pipe dreams or try to show you the worst YouTube videos known to man. But when Stewie gets busted for being zonked at school, he gets taken away from the Griffins temporarily to live with Joe.
I'm kind of the your dad around here.
Yeah, Pops doesn't really talk about being funny, he just is.
Yeah, my fellow Joe heads, it looks like we aren't out of the trenches with his character assassination this season. It is so Jover for the Jomo sapiens. But eventually, Lois goes through a course that earns her the right to get her baby back, and despite her best efforts, Stewie's gotta get his fix one way or another. Finally, Brian's irresponsibility turns into a positive for him.
Oh, Bri, you beautiful scumbag. Ooh, sativa.
Of course, Lois has got to be all high-strung about this. Typical boomer to have a problem with their toddler taking some THC. She just needs to be brought down to his level, and Stewie knows that sharing is caring.
This Chewy Zen is excellent.
See how much chiller things are when your mind is clouded? Dispensary propaganda is working overtime in this episode. And now that they're both on the same page, they can finally have that connection they never had.
You can talk?
You can understand me?
Hey, this stuff helped Brian finally break through to his son Dylan, so maybe there's something to be said about getting high with your child. That we are not endorsing, obviously. And thankfully, Lois isn't too upset about being drugged by her own baby.
Are you mad?
Well, I should be, but this is kinda awesome. I'm talking to my baby.
And this opportunity finally gets these two to connect after all these years, which pretty much means lying around and getting real personal real quick.
I fell down an escalator when I was pregnant with him.
He totally has an escalator head vibe.
They basically take this opportunity to get into their thoughts about other characters and their habits, like Peter and Lois's plan for when he inevitably dies, and Brian's awkward love for Lois. We really get to see the inner workings of Lois's mind, and it's a lot darker than you would think.
And he'll be dead in a couple of years, so...
You are one twisted lady.
But things would go from funny to a lot more introspective when the two finally start to get to the core of their issues towards one another. Well, Stewie's issues. I don't really think Lois is out here hating her baby. Maybe.
Maybe I just wanted to put you out of your misery. I think I wanted to kill you because I came from you.
I actually think it was because the writers thought an evil baby was funny, but I guess that's a fine retcon. But after a night of bonding and pooping on Bonnie's yard, the gummies eventually wear off and it's back to normal for the mother and son.
Why are you here?
Why am I in Stewie's room? I don't remember anything.
So this is an interesting one. Currently, this is one of the highest rated episodes the series has had in the past 5 years, but this isn't exactly what we would consider a return to form for Family Guy. This episode is way less wacky setups and cutaways and more of a character-driven episode that utilizes two characters who don't really get a chance to interact. We can see why people would enjoy something like that, especially if you've been watching the series for many years now. It certainly lends itself to better moments than other introspective episodes like Send in Stewie Please, mostly because the interactions between the two can be quite cute and endearing. Overall, this is a pretty solid episode for longtime fans who maybe wanted to see more character development. It's light on the comedy stylings that Family Guy is known for, but this is for the ones out there who want to see the characters more as people and less like caricatures. And following that episode is Pumpkin Spice Girls, where Lois and Meg become obsessed with pumpkin spice coffee to an absolute criminal degree.
Pumpkin spice latte is back? But it's a day early! I have a Google alert on my phone for that.
So Meg has never heard of the wonderful blessing that is pumpkin spice flavoring, and Lois is more than happy to introduce her to it. A bit out of season, considering this episode came out in February. We've all moved on and have started thinking about the green drinks of March.
Honey, there comes a day when every white girl must become a white woman. Today is that day.
Apparently drinking pumpkin spice is an otherworldly experience. I don't remember turning into a mermaid and hearing Vanessa Carlton's 1,000 Miles when I tried it, but I guess I'm just not ready to become a white woman. But props to the show for giving us 2 fun fantasy sequences in a row.
Mama wants to nut some Megs.
Oh, honey, it's been a month. Pumpkin spice latte season is over.
All good things must come to an end, but Meg doesn't want that to be the case. So they try to pivot to green tea to quench their thirst, but it just isn't the same.
This sucks!
Hey, can you guys stop going on drug trips? I haven't had my diaper changed since October.
Oh, so now someone suddenly has an issue with tripping out. Trips for me, but not for thee, I see. Also, they know pumpkin spice is super easy to make at home, right? They want to try that? No? Just go straight to breaking and entering? Yeah, that figures with them.
Nice! Up top, bitch.
Can you stop calling me that?
But now that just means the police are sniffing around for the culprits in this theft. But they don't need to be worried about the cops. Rather, they gotta be worried about the cop's wife who has a vendetta against them.
What interesting perfume you've got on. Nutmeg, clove, a little bit of brown ginger.
Hey, remember when you guys were in a lesbian lover situation last season? I guess they're back to hating each other. Lois really is destined not to have any real friends in this show, huh? So to keep Bonnie quiet, Lois lets her into their ring, but word quickly spreads amongst the other neighborhood wives.
I know you have some. Give it to me right now. I am filming you.
Again, you can just make this seasoning for like $10. When civilization falls and the Starbucks are no more, these will be the first people to go. But Lois figures out a way they can make some money off this, turning their garage into a black market coffee hub.
We accept cash, Venmo, or Etsy gift cards. We prefer Etsy gift cards. Actually, we only take Etsy gift cards.
Smart, no paper trail. And the Gilmore Girls box set disguise? Chef's kiss. Immaculate. But the police are still sniffing around, and when Joe finds a shoe print left at the crime scene, he goes to the resident expert on all things foot-related.
You've come to the right place. I have a database of every woman's foot in Quahog. I call it the Foot Book.
It's like working with Hannibal Lecter. He's disgusting, but damn if he doesn't know what he's talking about. And with the help of Quagmire's expertise, they finally find their culprit.
We're gonna nail Lois.
Really? Can I go first?
No, I mean, we gotta slap the cuffs on her and throw her in the back of my car.
Yeah.
I'd say lock Quagmire up too, but he's kind enough to explode himself to get him off the streets. So Joe tries to set up a sting operation, but Lois and Meg see right through it and get out of Dodge.
What do we do now?
Look, we always knew this time would come. Grab the pumpkin spice from the garage and run.
So now these two are basically Thelma and Louise, except the only thing more illegal than their pumpkin spice stealing would be if they were actually in love. But they do their best to flee from the police, getting a little help from Peter along the way.
I can't find the remote.
Wait, did you check under the table?
Yeah. No. Hold on.
Can't let this episode just be filled with cliches about women, now can they? But as the mother and daughter continue to flee, they end up coming to the end of the road. Literally.
Should we go out in a blaze of eternal glory?
I'd like that very much.
I guess death was the only way for Meg and Lois to finally connect with one another. Sad, but I get it. But before they can drive off, a realization comes to mind. Why not just drink a peppermint mocha instead?
Actually, that doesn't sound that bad!
Are you me? Turn around!
Luckily, they managed to survive and thus put an end to their totally avoidable crime spree. Lois and Meg episodes are some of the most fun the later seasons have had, and this episode isn't unlike those others. They always have a great, insane dynamic that only comes from slightly hating each other. But the gags in this are still pretty funny, from Bob's Burgers winning an Emmy, to Lois and Meg's coffee trip, to even learning how Joe farts. Honestly, some of the more gendered jokes are pretty low-hanging fruit and way past the point of when most people thought they were funny, but there's still some decent jokes and scenarios that come through and make this a fairly entertaining watch. And the third episode of the season, Manifest Destiny, splits the story into 2 parts. One that follows the guys getting stranded on Fire Island, and another about Stewie becoming obsessed with memes.
Wait a minute, guys. If we got a boat and found Bin Laden, we could charge people $5 to kick him in the balls.
A genius idea right out of the gate. They really aren't wasting any time in this episode. So the guys decide to set out on their mission to find Osama bin Laden's corpse in the ocean, ignoring the fact that their wives all think it's the dumbest thing they've ever heard. They just don't have the entrepreneurial mindset. I bet they passed on NFTs too. Well, who's the idiot now?
You know, it's so easy and fun with you guys out here. Sometimes I wish the world was just guys.
Sounds like God doesn't like that wish since he ends up striking the boat with lightning. He did not spend all that time ripping out Adam's ribs or whatever to make women just to have his work go unappreciated.
Oh my God, we've been struck by lightning!
I think I possibly took the brunt of it.
And after a big tidal wave destroys their boat, the guys wash up onto an island that's their dream come true. At least their dream of the last 2 minutes.
These must be the island natives. They clearly have a proud culture of music, dance, and flavored vodka.
But this isn't just any island. It's Fire Island, an island along the coast of Long Island known for several gay villages. Well, this is the world the guys wanted. Just guys, boys, and men. Well, except for one little lady.
Her name is Molly and she sits in your mouth. Say hello, Molly.
Sounds like Molly needs to learn a little about personal space. The guys are loving their time on the island. That is, of course, until the matter of the bill comes up.
$5,000 each should do it.
I'm sorry, $5,000? I didn't even have a bed!
Yeah, sounds like you had the fabulous glamping package. All the wonders of sleeping outdoors for the price of a cozy, comfortable hotel. Without the necessary funds to buy their way, they take a page out of the Be Gay Do Crime handbook and decide to flee the island.
Those freeloaders are getting away!
It's actually a pretty fun chase sequence, complete with tandem bikes, beach umbrella jousting, and fueling a deer with narcotics in order to get them on the last ferry out. All in all, a pretty fun trip that would be worth doing again.
Come back next summer for our PJ party.
We'll bring our families.
No, don't. Don't bring them.
And while all this was going on, Stewie was busy getting really into memes. Like Facebook mom levels of getting into them.
Restaurants have a reputation of convenience and deliciousness. The driver was forced to veer away.
Thanks, Know Your Meme. My baboon mind couldn't figure out what I was looking at until you said it. So Stewie makes memes his entire personality, resharing the work of others and taking all the credit. No, that is not what we do here. Don't type that.
I'm getting a lot of likes on my posts. They're not your posts. You're not doing anything original.
Yeah, but who needs originality? Everything has already been done, so all you can do is do what other people have done, but do it in a slightly better way that gets more attention. Again, take your fingers off the keyboard. I see you typing. Brian, as a guy who pretends to be a writer, doesn't take too kindly to this.
Cranky writer upset at friends' fun. Didn't have that on my 2026 bingo card.
The only thing worse than liking outdated memes is talking in them too. I can forgive newfangled young people's slang, but if it originated from a picture with impact text, that's where I draw the line.
Yeah, you don't have to say full stop. That's what a period is.
Yo, we talking about periods?
But things get even worse when Stewie decides to publish a book of memes. Bold of him to assume that people who are in love with memes even know what a book is.
Drake meme here, Boston Cop slide meme here, Willy Wonka here, Kermit sipping tea here.
Sounds like it's made to be a New York Times bestseller. Did you know you just have to sell like 5,000 copies to get that title? We might want to start bumping that figure up.
You forward reheated soundbite leftovers to idiots doing the same thing. You're all idiots.
Gotta go with the idiot dog on this one, though I think he's just mad he didn't think of this first. But to quell Stewie's obsession, Brian decides to take drastic measures and exorcise the memes from Stewie's body.
You're getting a Loboto meme. When I flip the switch, all memes will rush into your brain and explode out of you.
Say what you will about primitive times, but they knew how to make people stop talking. So Brian and Chris flush all the memes out of Stewie, but memes are a lot like energy. They can't be truly destroyed, they just get changed and move elsewhere.
I wonder where all those memes went.
So this episode was a bit of a mixed bag. The Peter and the Guys' story is definitely the more interesting and funny plot, having some decent comedic setups and even a little out-of-season Christmas song about Fire Island and Bo and Yang. The Stewie story, on the other hand, is pretty weak. While it's commenting on the repetitive nature of meme culture, it's using examples that haven't been culturally relevant for years. I should not be seeing an advice animal meme in the year 2026. It kinda makes the show look a bit behind when it comes to internet culture, and trust me, there is plenty of material to work with nowadays. Maybe in 2030 we'll finally hear what the show has to say about that peanut P-tuber guy. And up next is Bringing Up Brady, another split story revolving around Meg's unlikely friendship with Tom Brady, while Brian and Stewie decide to live in an IKEA.
Chowder here, get your hot chowder.
Meg, what the hell are you doing here?
So Peter learns that Meg has a job at Gillette Stadium, which means it puts her in the direct vicinity of New England's Lord and Savior, Tom Brady.
I saw him earlier. That's right where I refill my clam vat.
Wait, you saw him? Let me smell your eyes.
I get why the guys are so excited, but Peter's met the guy before. Heck, he played with him for a full episode in Patriot Games, and you best believe this episode is not going to bring that up.
Hey, Tom.
Oh, God, I don't know what's happening.
So, Tom, what was your favorite time zone to play in?
Glad they led with the most pressing question first. It's clear Tom doesn't remember Peter, which is probably for the best. I'd probably try not to remember him either. But when Meg kicks the guys out of the booth, it actually earns the admiration of Tom.
I owe you for saving my butt. You know, I'm in town for a few days. Maybe I could take you out for a cup of coffee.
Meg's living every middle-aged Rhode Island man's dream to be asked out by Tom Brady. And it turns out the two of them have a lot in common. Well, Tom doesn't eat sandwiches he finds in a dumpster, but Meg does seem to know quite a bit about football.
Like if the middle linebacker drops into deep coverage, you know that you're facing a Tampa 2 defense.
Didn't understand a word of what she just said. Did she just cast an enchantment? Have I been hexed? This impresses Tom so much that he invites Meg to feed info into his headset while he's broadcasting.
The 3 keys tonight are defense, defense, defense. Then compliment his tie.
He's still working on sounding like a regular human. It takes way more practice than you'd think. But while Meg thinks their relationship comes from Tom's admiration, she quickly learns the terrible truth.
And I've kind of been hanging out with this chick, Meg. But just for her football knowledge.
Is she hot?
No.
Another hot mic catching a bit of locker room talk. Well, this will either kill his career or he'll be president in a few years. Luckily, Meg has a way to stick it to Brady with her current position.
There's something important I want to say.
Meg Griffin, will you marry me?
Yes!
It's an admirable attempt, but it only works in a world where NFL stars actually respect their marriages. But Tom actually plans to honor his word. His word he was coerced into saying, but his word nonetheless. But it's actually Meg who decides to break things off.
I can't trap you into something you don't want to be a part of. You've got the rest of your weird life ahead of you.
Meg once again proves she's one of the most mature characters in the show. Peter would have gone through with a marriage to Tom in a heartbeat. Now let's see what Brian and Stewie are getting up to in this episode.
Yeah, the one thing you want is always the one thing that's out of stock. That's the IKEA promise.
So when Brian and Stewie go to IKEA to find the ladder a new bed, Stewie gets the bright idea that IKEA doesn't have to furnish their home, it can be their home.
We could have a different living room every night and a different kitchen every morning.
Hey, if that guy could survive living in Toys R Us, I don't see why Stewie and Brian can't do the same. So now that they have their new fancy digs, Stewie figures it's time to start living like they're from high society by hosting a little dinner party.
This is my chance to ingratiate myself to the movers and shaker of Quahog.
You mean movers and shakers?
There's actually only one shaker in Quahog. It's for the best, really. Too many things were getting knocked off ledges from all that shaking. So they decide to host the dinner, but quickly run into the limitations that come with living in a furniture store.
There's no plumbing. These toilets are just sitting on the floor.
A perfect way to show off your wealth. Every dinner guest gets their own personal toilet to use. Problem solved. But when the guests start to clue into the fact that they're eating in a department store, Brian and Stewie make sure those people stay quiet.
Too bad, Agnes. We could have had fun at Lake George.
I'm sure someone will find them eventually, hopefully while they're still breathing. This whole experiment kinda just seems to be more trouble than it's worth.
Again, should we just call it and get out of here?
Yeah, I already got the group photo.
So aside from the fact that the show ignores Tom Brady's last prominent appearance on the show, this was still a pretty decent episode all around. Meg's story is definitely the most thought out and entertaining, and while Brian and Stewie's doesn't fully take advantage of the idea, it still has some good bits with the dinner party. Bit moments like the loud local car commercial, Eddie Murphy ordering either women or pizza, and Peter skydiving onto the stadium all help to make this one of the funnier episodes of the season so far. And Peter has to either go to therapy or come clean to Lois when he accidentally says the wrong name in bed in the following episode, Dear Francis.
I was very brave for a boy my age.
No, Peter, I'm talking about that hat.
So after Lois gets a little aroused over the prospect of Peter wearing a backwards hat, the couple decides to go upstairs and do something about it. Look, when you're their age, even the slightest change to your appearance is enough to get the hormones pumping. But when they start getting down and dirty, Peter has himself a Freudian slip.
Oh, Peter! Oh, Peter! Oh.
Francis!
Well, Freud talked about men being attracted to their mothers. I don't think he ever conceived of a man calling out his father's name in bed.
I guess I must have thought about my old man Francis for a second while we were doing it. Wow.
Alright, spill it. What part of Lois reminded you so much of your dead father? Let's see just how much of Lois's self-esteem you can destroy. But what Lois doesn't know is that it actually wasn't Peter's dad that he was thinking about.
You're the best, Francis.
Thank you kindly, Miss Francis.
If you need me, just yell my name.
So it was actually the Clam's new waitress he was thinking about. Well, that's not great, but probably better on the mind than it being your dad. But for Peter's sake, it might be better for him in the long run if Lois thinks that's who he was talking about.
Well, I suppose that was a fair assumption. Your dad was pretty hot.
Thanks for the insight, Joe. Sorry you never got the chance to make a move on him. But this isn't something Lois can just forget, so she recommends that Peter go to therapy to work through his apparent daddy issues.
After all, you did fall off a unicycle and crush him to death. It sounds far-fetched, but that's literally what happened.
That's true. If you've only seen the modern Family Guy episodes, you might think this is the show making up a random detail, but that's the legit truth. It was his time anyway. So the therapist suggests to Peter that in order to move past his psychological hangups concerning his father, he must strengthen his own role as a father.
You'll need to treat this like a second full-time job where nobody pays you and your family members are all your boss.
I think Peter would rather think about his dad naked than have to do that. He should just continue the toxic habits his dad passed on to him and hope that his kids pick up those habits as well, as is tradition. But Peter makes an effort, getting involved in the kids' hobbies.
Peck his little eyes out!
Meg, I can't tell if these people are very poor or very, very rich.
And you thought Peter was crazy? Peter ends up looking like smooth SpongeBob when placed next to Meg. Maybe he can find some common ground with Stewie by reading him a bedtime story, which is actually just an Applebee's menu.
Oh God, he's not even reading it, he's just riffing.
We're gonna skip the salad chapter, but it doesn't affect the story at all.
You think that's a tough read? Just wait until Stewie gets old enough to read a Chili's menu. Now that's for the intellectuals. So while Peter's showing about as much progress as you'd expect, Lois has one last task for him to complete.
Peter needs to write a letter to his dead father to help him properly grieve and move on.
Something tells me the last thing Francis wants is Peter hanging around his grave. Francis is supposed to be haunting him, not the other way around. Of course, Peter doesn't exactly prepare anything, but some misinterpreted tears are enough to convince Lois that this was a success.
No! My phone is dead! Dead!
Mission accomplished. And just like in that picture, nothing was actually accomplished. But Lois thinks Peter has now earned a reward, a nice family trip to his favorite place in town, the Clam.
I would like to make an anonymous bomb threat.
Peter, for the last time, that doesn't work face to face.
And all it takes is for that pretty new waitress to come by to finally get Lois to clock on to what's been going on. And no amount of pretending to be attracted to your dad is gonna fix that.
Dad?
So after a montage of Peter earning tickets any way he can to afford a boombox, Peter tries to apologize to Lois the way they used to in old 80s movies.
I'm doing Say Anything, but that Peter Gabriel song is too expensive. So this is 1001 wacky sound effects.
Which is ironic because a slide whistle makes the exact sound that reflects Lois's respect for Peter slipping away. If he wants to win Lois back, he's got to actually do the meaningful work and find the words to say to his dad.
The one thing you did right was showing me the kind of dad and husband I don't want to be.
Heck yeah, dunking on the dead. So even though Peter's hangups about his dad actually had nothing to do with his issues here, Lois still feels proud of him and decides to forgive him.
If it makes you feel better when we're doing it, I'm mostly thinking about Chris Hemsworth.
Yep, just one big, loving, functional family. This one was also pretty good. We've noticed that when episodes tend to focus on just one plot, it turns out way more thought out and fulfilling. The stuff with Peter's dad at the end felt a little tacked on as it didn't really play into the true conflict, but we guess it was nice to see Peter give his dad one last middle finger after all these years. It's much more preferred than the show giving us one. But the next episode, Viewer DMs, would give us 3 different short plots in this revival of the classic Family Guy viewer mail style of episodes.
Didn't Chris used to wear an earring one time? Where'd it go? Well, Derek, thank you for your question.
So the first section of the episode explains what happened to the earring in a retelling of The Lord of the Rings. That's right, nearly 12 hours of movies condensed into just 10 minutes. I'm sure all the Tolkien heads will be pleased.
Frodo, I need you to go on an adventure. It's a very heterosexual quest.
Interesting that you'd have to clarify that beforehand, but something tells me that must have been a court-ordered thing considering this is Herbert. So Herbert takes Chris on a journey to destroy the powerful One Earring, where they meet up with a fellowship of heroes that pledge to help.
Can't Gandalf just fly me to Mordor on a giant eagle?
No, you gotta walk.
You're a couple of years late to this discussion, Family Guy. It's already been disproven, and we're all complaining about Amazon's show now. Try to keep up. But eventually, the whole squad decides to up and leave, leaving Chris with just a weird little guy.
Oh, hey, I can tag along with you and the Precious. I mean, that earring that I don't have big feelings about.
Must be rough running into an ex with their new fling. Suggesting a threesome doesn't always work, so props to Stewie on succeeding. So the duo makes it through Mordor and to the fires of Mount Doom, only for the ring to be possessed by the true Lord of the Earrings, Harrison Ford.
That's the earring went off of my plane.
What?
He's so stoned.
Forget the director's cut, the Family Guy cut gave you all the info you needed in record time. I just hope there's no quiz that follows this. So the next viewer DM asks how the Griffin family ended up in Quahog, so we're shown how their ancestors made their way on the Oregon Trail.
You're the inside Meg now. The rest of you come bury your sister very shallowly.
So the family and like half a dozen Megs set out for Rhode Island, but it's clear not everyone is gonna make it. That's fine though. This was the era of pumping out a kid every single year. More free labor to go around.
Just don't put the cause of death on my tombstone.
Nah, people need to know you died gross.
But the trail eventually gets rough as winter weather starts to beat them down, leading to Peter having to pray for some divine intervention.
Amen.
Peter,
Oh boy.
Happy to see that the American trigger finger has been deeply rooted in our culture since the beginning. But through human willpower and not killing the next angel they saw, they finally made it to their new home. Now they just need to kick out the people who were living there first.
I know, this sucks, but all of America did this, so it's not just me, so it's okay.
And that's how the wonderful nation of America was created. Led by people like Peter and now run by people like Peter. It all comes full circle. And the final section of the episode revolves around questioning whether Quagmire would ever get his own show.
Quagmire actually did have his very own variety show back in the 1960s.
We've tracked down the only existing episode.
And apparently the show was nothing but show tunes, harsh lamps that make the host sweat, and a whole lot of laughing.
What? Oh, this is the last thing I expected to see. They just keep coming.
And I thought today's shows were just keys jingling incarnate. But it still had all the elements of what you'd expect from Quagmire, which usually just pertains to how he treats women.
Please go on while I bite my fist in a caricature of sexual longing.
Yeah, not much more to dive into on this one. It's becoming obviously clear why guys like Stewie can land a spin-off, but not Quagmire.
Not this one, okay? This is my niece. She's in this sketch as a favor to my brother, all right?
Yeah, this is probably the weakest one so far. We think the Pioneer story is probably the strongest out of the bunch, but it's not really up against the strongest competition. The Lord of the Rings parody feels so rushed without any worthwhile parody or commentary to make. There's a lot of over-explaining jokes or observations about the movies, and the third story even makes fun of that while doing it itself. That third story hardly has a narrative to it, mostly just containing gags that miss more than they hit. Other than the last one, these stories definitely could have benefited from more time to expand their ideas, rather than just a scattershot of underwhelming one-offs. And next up is Scent of a Woman, where Brian realizes he smells cancer on one of the family members, and Truth or Dare stands to ruin Peter and Lois's marriage.
It's a known fact dogs can smell all kinds of different medical conditions.
So Brian's little gift of smell ends up giving him some bad news when he decides to sniff one of Meg's friend's bras during a sleepover. See, being a scumbag could save lives sometimes. That's a very big and fat could, but you know, it is possible.
I'm getting a whiff of breast cancer from Patty's bra. I think Patty may have breast cancer.
That would be pretty terrible if true, but you kinda need a control group to test this theory against. Better go get the other girl's bras and give him a whiff just to make sure. But when Brian decides to break the news to Meg, the situation just gets a whole lot worse.
Let me see that bra. Do you have it? Brian, that's my bra.
That's terrible. And even worse, Meg is definitely gonna need a new bra. Brian really went to town on it, which is somehow making cancer look like the least terrible thing here. But while Meg may be dying, Brian intends to help her live out her dreams with the little time she has left. Someone should have told her to dream a little higher.
I've always wanted to pig out on garbage can nachos at Chaz Inferno's restaurant in Orlando.
A simple dream that doesn't even need to involve Make-A-Wish. Meg really is a man of the people. People I wouldn't want to run into on a dark street at night, but people nonetheless. So the two make the cross-country journey to Florida, but not before Dr. Hartman calls Meg over her test results.
Do I have cancer?
Yes!
Oh no.
Sorry, what?
I have cancer?
Oh, no cancer.
Well, that's a relief. But, you know, they're already in Florida. Might as well see this wish to the end. Brian doesn't even have to know that Meg's clean. Or the Guy Fieri knockoff who cuts your hair tableside while you eat nachos.
Good thing we're doing this first, so tiny hairs don't get in the nachos.
There's tons in there already.
I don't doubt it. Would you dare to cover up your frosted tips with a hairnet? But when Brian answers Meg's phone while she's in the bathroom, he learns that she's been lying to him this whole time.
I guess I just saw a chance to live out one of my dreams and realized it might never happen again.
I can't believe how selfish that is.
Okay, but it's not like she asked you to go skydiving or anything, you just took her to a restaurant. I could see you being mad if she lied to you before making you drive all the way to Florida, but cancer or no cancer, they're here already and should just eat some gross nachos. So they have a little spat, but they both reconcile in the end.
I guess I lied to you because I just wanted this amazing trip we've been having to last a little longer.
Well, glad they had a good time because Peter and Lois cannot say the same. After Peter learns what Truth or Dare is from Meg's sleepover, he decides to try playing it with Lois.
Truth.
Okay, let's see. How many men have you slept with in your lifetime?
Glad he clarified that at the end. Wouldn't want Lois to include any of the men from other people's lifetimes. So Lois refuses to answer the cardinal sin of Truth or Dare. She's gonna start seeing weird smiling people everywhere now.
Come on, it's fine. Just say the number. Keep it in mind that any number other than 0 will send me into a 10-year spiral.
Now that's just wishful thinking. You have met your wife before, right, Peter? So this causes tensions to run hot as Peter decides to spiral with or without knowing the true number.
Can you please pass the peas and ask your mother how many peas she's had in her mouth?
Definitely something a son wants to learn about his mother. Glad they haven't let this rift get in the way of their parenting. So if Lois isn't gonna tell, then she's just gonna have to do a dare. Like a real dare. Like a Johnny Knoxville taking a few years off his life kind of dare.
Then I dare you to roll a blade off the Swanson's roof and into their pool.
And that'll finally shut you up?
It might shut both of you up because that's a very high chance of death stunt. But at least it's on Joe's property, so he'll be the liable one.
Ah, damn it! Oh, it hurts so much! Oh, God!
Oh, your leg hurts. What's that like?
Well, one dangerous dare and one trip to the hospital later, and Lois is finally ready to speak her truth. Kinda seems like Peter wishes he was the one who fell off the roof. Head first.
I guess 16 ain't so bad.
No, Peter, 60. 60.
All in all, this one was fairly decent. Both stories had something a little enjoyable. Meg and Brian brought more of the heartwarming character stuff, while Peter and Lois brought some decent physical and verbal comedy to the table. It does feel like story beats the show has been over before, but it's certainly not the worst watch. Honestly, the Peter and Lois story probably could have been given more time to take it further, as the Meg and Brian story does drag its feet at times, getting to the point. But overall, not too shabby. And in playtime, the town of Quahog tries to save the local theater by putting on 3 famous plays.
Tonight, we'll be performing 3 plays to save this local treasure that none of us supported while it was open.
Timothy Chalamet more or less said the same thing about ballet and opera, and the public tried to kill him for it. So the first play they adapt is To Kill a Mockingbird, and there are some stellar parody names in here.
Ah, Pooh Badly, a guy obsessed with children and AR-15s.
God forbid a guy have some niche interests. So if you don't know the original story, it's about a lawyer in the Jim Crow South representing a black man falsely accused of murder. Racism was running rampant back then, so for an authentic experience, they made sure to put the play's black cast in as much danger as possible.
Hello to the all-white jury, the all-white gallery, and the very rickety segregated balcony.
Gotta admire plays being true to the time period. But while this is all well and good and super important, the thing that the play always leaves out is just how prominent a character the Mockingbird is.
Are you a mockingbird? Are you a mockingbird? That's how you sound, dude. Leave me alone. Fat Snoopy says what?
It's weird how he's in the title, but literally never gets his due. Bird actors are still trying to win their rights. But it becomes clear there's someone else the town should be fearing, and another guy that previous guy should be fearing.
There was never any reason to be afraid of me, and to prove it, I'm gonna murder this guy.
There's some good lessons to take from this play, but you aren't gonna find them here, so let's just move on. The next play is The Odd Couple, where a neat freak and a slob decide to live together in 60s New York, because even though rent was $1, you still had to have a roommate for some reason.
I mean, 2 white guys with slightly different standards of neatness sharing the same apartment?
I know, it sounds boring and not at all the catalyst for nearly every sitcom that would be made in the future. And if you weren't too familiar with the plot, well, don't hold your breath, because it doesn't really get into the nitty-gritty of it in this adaptation. The actual interesting bits of this parody are the things going on around the play.
Ma'am?
Don't you ma'am me.
Ma'am?
Don't you use that cop trick.
Ma'am?
You think I'm going away?
I think the story is about one of the roommates helping the recently divorced one get back out there, but Quagmire decides to go against the source material and use the play to fulfill his own fantasies.
No single guy in New York would ever turn down any kind of especially in the 60s. Come on, girls, we're going to my room.
I always enjoy an adaptation that takes some creative liberties, like sleeping with your 2 best friends' wives. It's those little details that really matter in the end. And the final play of the episode is Hamlet, one of William Shakespeare's most well-known plays that the show thankfully dumbs down for us pea-brains.
The king is dead.
Well, that's quite tragic, but I see no reason to descend into madness.
What about if your dad's brother suddenly started dating your mom? See, Shakespeare got daddy issues even all the way back then. So Hamlet's visited by the ghost of his dead father, who says that his death was a plot by his brother and that Hamlet must avenge him.
Also, there's a naked etching of Beowulf under my mattress that I need you to throw away.
Well, revenge has to take a backseat for now while the really important stuff gets settled. So, one mental health spiral and a speech of whether he should be or not be, Hamlet decides to enact his revenge by killing his new stepdad. Which, let's be honest, we all want to do that.
Do you believe in miracles?
USA! USA!
Leave it to Americans to make something all about themselves. But as far as Family Guy's parody episodes go, this one wasn't all that bad. We think the meta-narrative surrounding these being actual plays the characters are putting on helps make this feel a bit fresher despite them doing stuff like this a lot. To probably no one's surprise, the episode doesn't exactly have the most insightful or all that funny reflections on a lot of these plays, but there are some good bits here and there, like with the Mockingbird and Cleveland wishing he wasn't missing a concert for this. Hopefully the show takes note of what works and doesn't in this episode and applies it to other parodies going forward. And our final episode for now is Phony Montana, which sees Brian developing an accent while dating a Cuban girl, and Peter and Lois getting mad when their new swinger friends don't make a move on him.
I'm Brian, dog guy.
Hello, Brian the dog guy. I'm Carmen.
So Brian ends up meeting a girl at an event for immigrants, and the two develop feelings for one another. It's just too bad Carmen already has a guy interested in her.
I just agreed to go out with that guy. Actually, never mind.
Yeesh. I don't think it's ever sucked more for a joke to age that well. So Carmen invites Brian to a Cuban club where he gets the authentic Cubano experience blasted into his eardrums.
This is great.
Do you like for horns to be louder?
No, that's okay.
Do you like for horns to be louder?
An important part of many cultures is to be clinically deaf due to loud music. It's unfortunate, but it's also a sign of a life well lived. But when Brian returns home, he passes out and then wakes up with a strange alteration to his brain.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm good, man. Just give it a little spice, okay?
I've heard of your entire vocabulary changing based on the media you consume, but your voice actor can change too? I'm like 90% positive that's Carlos Alazraqui doing the voice, but unfortunately this isn't a case of Mr. Weed possessing Brian to finally take revenge on him.
Carmen says she's gonna come by the hospital. She can't hear me sound like this. She's gonna think I'm making fun of her.
So Brian is forced into not speaking to Carmen until they can figure out how to fix this. It's too bad because this split personality of his might have been useful if it weren't so culturally insensitive.
Next time I hear you talk that way, I'm gonna kick you so hard your big ass gonna land in Saskatchewan.
We'd better hurry the story along before Brian hits his head and starts speaking Chinese too. So Carmen invites Brian to her cousin's wedding, and Stewie gets a device that will alter Brian's voice back to normal.
Testing, 1, 2, 3.
I will break your freaking head open, man.
Testing, 1, 2, 3.
Well, he's got counting to 3 down. Now he's just got to keep the Tony Montana inside him suppressed. But it wouldn't be a Family Guy episode if everything worked out well in the end.
I almost forgot. Say hello to my little friend.
Hey, I'm Stewie.
Luckily, Brian gets hit in the back of the head and his speech goes back to normal, but the damage has been done and his chances with Carmen are now at 0. But he's not the only one to strike out in this episode, as Peter and Lois do the same with their new friends Crystal and Clay.
Did I hear you work at Pawtucket, Pat?
Yeah, why?
That's maybe like the coolest job I've ever heard of anyone having.
I'm not even sure what Peter does, but I guess just being in the vicinity of beer makes it cool. So Peter and Lois hit it off with their cool new friends, but it turns out the couple has a reputation around town.
They're swingers, like the biggest in town. They try with everyone.
Perfect. That means their standards are pretty low, which means Peter and Lois have a chance. If that were something they were interested in.
Sure, right. It'd be nice to know we're at least in the pool of consideration.
Well, whether or not they're taking a dip in that pool, they still want to make sure their legs are shaved and their pants are appropriately stuffed for their next double date.
What's the old game plannerino?
Oh, you know, I think I'm done for the night.
That's cool, but also it's a personal insult to Peter and Lois's looks and characters that they're beating around the bush. So it looks like they'll have to lay it on heavy to get that thing they definitely don't want.
Please, I'll pay for it. How much to make it happen right now? Touch it!
Maybe don't do it with enough heaviness to crush a man to death. It turns out Crystal and Clay only like Peter and Lois as friends, but that's not exactly good enough for them. They gotta show them what they're missing out on.
We didn't swing, but we did have violent in front of another couple.
Somehow both a win and a loss. Way to go. Honestly, this may be one of the best episodes of the new season. Both plots are strong and funny, and while they don't end in the most satisfying of ways, the journey to get there is a lot of fun. Brian giving Cleveland his first bathtub gag in years, Peter and Lois being oblivious to their attraction factor, and Brian's Cuban off with Carmen's dad are all so good. It may not be a revelation for the series, but it's simply just a good time. And that's all the episodes for now. Be sure to check back in for the rest of the season once it's out, and make sure you leave a like and hit subscribe so you don't miss it.